Hello and welcome to today's podcast with your host, William Bayless. And as always, I'm joined by my football partner in crime, the one and only Joe. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate. Really excited to be doing this podcast now because obviously we've done all the Premier League stuff, all the Premier League actions kind of done and out of the way, and now we can put our focus to the 2020 European Championships because, of course, it's been delayed by a year. So really excited. Really looking forward to seeing how obviously our home nation England will do, and of course all the other British nations as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that being said, yesterday England announced the final squad, what they're going to take to the Euros. So shall we run through it, Joe, and then we'll talk about it a bit more?
Let's go for it.
The three goalkeepers are Henderson, Sam Johnson and Jordan Pickford, which is no surprise there to be. In defence is Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ben Chilwell, Connor Cody, Reece James, Harry Maguire, Tyrone Mings, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier and Kyle Walker. In midfielders, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. And up front is going to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Jordan Sancho and Raheem Sterling. Now, I'm going to throw this over to you, Joe. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we should talk about who missed out. So obviously, the 26 that made it, congratulations to them. Kind of really happy for them. And obviously, hopefully, that's the team that you just read out that's going to bring home the first trophy internationally since 1966, obviously. But if we look at the players that missed out, so you go for the goalkeepers. So Ramsdale missed out, no real surprise there. And you look at the defenders, first time call ups for them for the 33-man squad. So you've got Ben White and Godfrey of Everton. Then you go to the midfield, you've got James Ward-Prowse missing out. And then, of course, Greenwood missed out from the striker options and Ollie Watkins. I don't think I missed anyone out there, did I, Will?
The one and only Jesse Lingard also missed out, which ironically he's actually going to play in the friendly tonight, so it's a bit bittersweet for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with him, and I think he was probably the most shocking kind of absentee. Yes, all right, he'd only played half a season, but it had been a fantastic half a season. Gareth Southgate's kind of reason for omitting from the squad was he's been playing brilliantly well. He was way off the pace before the season started, but I have to say it's the old adage, isn't it, of picking players on form versus name again. I think Jesse Lingard is very unlucky to miss out, and I personally actually didn't have him as a player missing out in my kind of England squad selection.
Yeah, so
quite surprised.
If it was up to you, who would you swap for Jesse Lingard?
Either Jude Bellingham or that could be, but I'll give my reason in a second. Or Bukayo Saka. But the reason for that being, so we'll go to Jude Bellingham. The only reason is he's a very, very talented midfielder, and there's no denying that. And he's been doing it at the top level at Dortmund, in the German league, and of course we've seen him in the Champions League this season. So no denying his talent. But he's 17 years old, and I just wonder whether it's too soon for him. But the more exposure, so I can understand why Gareth Southgate is taking him. I'm not kind of questioning these decisions. I do understand why these players have been picked, but it's just my personal preference. I think Jesse Lingard's got the tournament experience as well, so he adds a little bit more experience in that midfield. He's kind of a box-to-box midfielder as well. Same as Jude Bellingham. And then, of course, Bukayo Saka, he's a good player, very good player, but I think Jesse Lingard just picks him to the post in terms of what he can offer the team on current form. But again, I understand why Bukayo Saka has been picked, because he's a very versatile player. So you can understand why Gareth Southgate's gone for the selection he's gone for. But I'm just saying, for my personal preference, I think Jesse Lingard goes in ahead of those two. But that's my personal preference. And again, it comes down. This is purely down to personal preference, and not understanding of why Gareth Southgate's picked who he's picked. So I'm not exactly arguing the decision. I'm just saying on my own kind of way of thinking of how I would set up my squad if I was manager.
Yeah, and it's very interesting if you go on that, because if you go on performances and recent form, you say, why isn't Joe Willock in the team? Like, he's had an amazing end of the season, hasn't he? On par with Lingard, if you think about it. It's fairly undocumented in comparison, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I actually agree with you on that one. I think it's, you pick players on form, you want them to be going in, and there's a few players in there on name, and I think we'll go on to him in a bit, but I think actually on his kind of end of season form is why Trent Alexander-Arnold's been picked. To go with England, because obviously he'd been omitted from the squad a couple of selections ago, and I think he's fought his way back. But going back to the Jesse Lingard situation, do feel for him. I also have to say I do feel for Ollie Watkins. Now, the reason I feel for Ollie Watkins, I also feel for Greenwood, obviously getting the injury, but we'll go on to that in a second. The reason I feel for Ollie Watkins is because of the Greenwood injury. I thought that might open the door to him. Especially because now we've got two recognised centre. We've only got two recognised centre forwards in the squad. If both of those get injured, we're kind of not up shit creek, so to speak. But it's going to be very difficult if Harry Kane gets injured and Calvert-Lewin gets injured, which could happen across the 9 games. Let's not forget, it's an intense tournament. So obviously with the 2 friendlies as well, I think maybe Ollie Watkins should have got the nod ahead of a couple of the other players as well, just because of the recognised position that he's got. But it's interesting. I'm again not doubting the squad. What did you think of the overall squad selection, Will?
I think it was interesting. I know the big talking point was what right backs are going to get selected, and in the end, they all got selected, didn't they? But I kind of understand the logic why, and this is why. So there's Kyle Walker, Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, and Kyle Trippier, isn't there? So those are the 4 right backs in option. So the reason why I think they picked 4 is because Kyle Walker can also play centre back. So if we play 5 at the back, he can play the right-handed centre back, can't he? Yeah. Similar to Trent Alexander-Arnold, he can play more. He's probably better attacking. So if we wanted to push him up, we can do. Then that makes sense. And then we have 2 other right backs. But it's interesting though, because I kind of see the logic of people's criticisms of that. And I know Gareth Southgate came out and said that if he could pick 5 and 6, he would, because fullbacks, or particularly right backs in this country at the moment, it's like everywhere. Everyone's like a right back, aren't they? Like, we have so many good options, so many players who didn't even get the thought of, who could have made it in previous years, hasn't there?
Here's my kind of analysis of that. You saying you're kind of giving a reason. I think to kind of solidify that, I just want to kind of go into my reasoning behind it. So let's quickly look at the four right backs. So you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. For me, he's our best attacking wing back. Right back, best crosser of the ball in the squad as well. I think he can put a ball on the sixpence. So when you're chasing games, he's the right back that you want in the team. Plus, there has been talk about him potentially playing in midfield. So he's my first choice right back, because I'd like to play an attacking and expansive style of football. Let's look at Kyle Walker. He's got the pace, like you say, he can play at centre back, but also he's got the most experience out of all the right backs that we've got. So obviously he's going to be taken for the experience, for tournaments and stuff like that. So that's kind of the reason why Kyle Walker's been picked. You look at Reece James. Obviously I've not, on my own social media, I've kind of documented that he's probably my least favourite. But when you look at his defensive now, he's probably the best out of the 4 right backs.
Yeah.
Defensively, he's been a monster. Obviously, Champions League winner as well. So that's probably why he's been selected. And I want to say something on Kieran Trippier. Obviously, for me, he's the best all-round right back that we've got. So how we're talking about Alexander-Arnold and Reece James being both opposites in terms of TAA being more attacking and Reece James being more defensive. I think Kieran Trippier offers all of that. And then, of course, you've got Kyle Walker for the experience. So for me, I can completely understand why Gareth Southgate's gone for all four. Because, again, the games are going to be very situational. These games are going to be intense, especially when we're up against top sides. There are going to be points in this tournament where we're going to be chasing games. There are going to be points in this tournament where we're going to need to defend. So with the options of the right backs, with it being such a kind of an important position for us, I think I can completely understand why Gareth Southgate's gone for that selection.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's move on to centre backs then. So I know it might be fairly obvious, but who's your if it was four at the back, who would be your two centre backs?
For me, it's probably our best two centre backs. We've only got three centre backs, known centre backs, been selected. Obviously with Harry Maguire, Tyrone Mings, and Connor Cody,
and John Stones as well.
And John Stones, sorry. So it's four. It's four, not three. Sorry about that. I think you've got to go for Maguire and Stones if they're both fit. Yeah. They're our best centre backs. I think on the current situation, obviously Maguire is coming off an ankle ligament injury, so he's our best centre back, arguably. Just pips John Stones, maybe. I mean, that's an arguable point. But I think with the fact that he could be injured, John Stones goes in first, and then who'd you pick? It's kind of, I'd probably go for Tyrone Mings ahead of Connor Cody. Just because
for your next choice.
Yeah, for my next choice, just because they've both got really good leadership qualities, but I just feel like because he's captain of Villa, obviously Cody captain of Wolves, but captain of Villa and the way he kind of commands his area. But again, you could make the argument for Cody as well. But I think just in terms of physical presence, I think Tyrone Mings gets into that first game if
Harry Maguire's injured.
But obviously if they're all fit, it's Harry Maguire and Stones at the back for me.
Yeah, and left back as well. So that was Shaw and Ben Chilwell. I know Luke Shaw wasn't both of our teams of the season, but Ben Chilwell can also do the job there. So if he was there, then you wouldn't be annoyed, would you? Really?
It's a difficult one because they're both very, very good left backs. I think if you're the left back that misses out the two of them, you're very disappointed because they both had equally good seasons for me. I think Chilwell obviously can be in and out of the teams at times at Chelsea, but that's just because Tuchel is, likes to chop and change things. So I think that's down to the management style rather than Chilwell's play. But I'd probably just say Shaw would get in the team for me on current form. But again, it's very close. I'd just pick Shaw ahead of Chilwell. But again, if Chilwell was in ahead of Shaw, I wouldn't exactly be like, oh, why the hell? What the hell's going on? It's nice to have left backs of that quality, two in one position. So, if one of them gets injured, then you're pretty comfortable with who you've got to kind of cover that position for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm pretty confident with kind of the options we've got in defence. I mean, I know a lot of people are complaining about the right back situation, but if I was in Gareth Southgate's position, I think I'd have done the same thing. Obviously, do you know what's funny though, Will? And I wanted to just get your thoughts on this. Obviously, watched the press conference from Gareth Southgate last night, and he said that he let Trent Alexander-Arnold know 3 weeks ago that he was in the squad. Now, of course, there was reports from that moment that he wasn't going to make the squad. What does this tell you with the media and kind of with the kind of relationship they've got with the national team? Because obviously we're all thinking up until about 3 o'clock yesterday when, of course, the news broke that he had made the team or he was set to be in it. Up until 3 o'clock, everybody was thinking he was going to be out. I put a couple of things on my personal social media accounts. but what does it tell you? The media can get it wrong, can't they? Definitely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them start. I know throughout the day we had most of the squad saying, "Oh, they're not going to be included, surprise omission, blah blah blah." Then it turns out, oh wait, no, they're actually in the squad. So yeah, it just shows a lot of them try to find a story, make up stuff, and it just shows don't believe everything you read on the internet. Wait until the final decision's been made, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, no, it does, and I think just on that, I think it was actually a very very good move from Gareth Southgate to speak to Trent Alexander-Arnold as early as he did, because obviously Trent, you saw him training yesterday and kind of having a laugh and a joke and stuff, and you thought, well, if you're going to be admitted from the squad, then why would you be that happy? But no, he's obviously known for a lot longer than we have that he was going to be in the squad.
Yeah.
So in terms of man management, that's fair play to Gareth Southgate, and obviously keeping Trent on side and letting him know what's happening. I did like that touch from Gareth Southgate, because I think that's the way you've got to do it. You've got to let the player know. Forget what the media's saying. If the player knows where he stands with the manager, he's got nothing
No,
to
who
do
cares?
with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. So let's move on to goalkeeper. So no huge surprise here. So it's, you would say, for England's style of play that Jordan Pickford will be England's number one for the tournament just because of his distribution. Henderson's a better shot stopper and a better goalkeeper. But before I build up play and Pickford can pick up the pass, that's why Pickford will be number one. But Henderson is an up and coming one. So next tournament, or the one after next, the next one's only next year, Henderson will be number one after that.
I think it's just the way that Gareth Southgate likes to play. Just going on, obviously, the guy who was not included in the squad, Ramsdale. I think he was actually lucky to be called up to the 33 because, of course, Pope got an injury, didn't he?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, our three goalkeepers, no offence to Johnstone, but obviously, our three goalkeepers, if they were all fit, would be Henderson, Pickford, and Pope. Obviously, with the injury that Pope had, it means that he can't play. So Johnston's got a call up, which is great for him. But Ramsdale was a very much outside goalkeeper. I think we all knew yesterday that he was going to be the one that was going to be admitted from the squad.
Yeah, 100%.
So it wasn't a surprise in that sense. But yeah, I think in the style that Gareth Southgate wants to play, I think Pickford's our number one, because people forget, in terms of our best build from the back goalkeeper, it has to be Pickford. And that's the style that Gareth Southgate wants to play. I think Henderson, like you say, is the better overall goalkeeper, but you've got to look at the management style and the way that, like I say, Gareth Southgate wants to play. So Pickford gets the nod ahead of him, just for the manager that he's under, pretty much.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, the goalkeeping situation's kind of sorted.
Moving on to midfield then, so it's Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips, and Declan Rice. Now, you had question marks over Bellingham, and I think if he came on, he could do the job. His work rate, the way he played against Man City, he was unbelievable, and it was unlucky not to score a few goals in that game.
Look, I just want to make clear that I think Jude Bellingham is an absolute talent and is a brilliant player. And I have watched him before anybody kind of slings mud at me and says, "Oh, you probably don't watch enough of the Bundesliga." I've watched him in games. I think he's a terrific player. I think he is definitely part of England's future for sure. Yeah. But I just the only reason I would perhaps have gone for Lingard over Jude Bellingham was just experience and the fact that he's 17. I don't want him to get into a situation where it's difficult for him and he becomes a bit of a deer in the headlights, because you don't know how players are going to react in international pressure situations. International football and club football for me are slightly different. So you've got to deal with that pressure. I think he's got the ability and the strength to do it, but I just think 17, I don't want this young lad, if he is a big part of the team, which he could be, I don't want him to be slated. That's my point. It's more about protecting the talent rather than being like, you shouldn't be in the squad. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's definitely part of England's future.
Yeah, I agree with you at the point, but I think it's good to have him in the squad. I know we spoke about it before, so we'll get experience. And if he came on, I think he'll do the job. Like, he's done it in the Champions League, which is, almost up there as well with it.
Yeah, you're right.
And at the age of 17, I've heard people say he's got the maturity of like a 28-year-old. He plays at age, so I think put him on. He wouldn't be. I don't think he'll be phased by it. I think if you're good enough, then you're old enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course, and you could say the same for. I mean, I know Phil Foden's slightly older. I think about 3 years old actually, because he's just turned 20. But you know, Phil Foden's at the similar age of first real tournament that he's in. 20 years old. But on the flip side of that, obviously been quite negative about it and all that. What talented lads that we've got coming through.
Oh, we've got so many good players, and we haven't even spoken about Declan Rice as well, because he's still quite a young lad as well. Like, yeah, I know he's a bit older, but he's in the starting lineup for me.
I mean, yeah, well, he is. He's our best holding midfielder, arguably. I mean, you look at Henderson; he's got some great captain's qualities, but I think in terms of how young he is and stuff, Declan Rice has done a fantastic job for West Ham, and he's one of the main reasons they did so well this season. So he's a terrific player, and obviously bigger clubs have been looking at him. I know Chelsea have been monitoring him for a long time. So yeah, I think. It's obviously he's a great player. I think we've got some great attacking options as well.
Yeah, we really do.
Moving on to that, obviously Harry Kane's going to be leading the line. We've got Calvert-Lewin that can fit in there, and then of course you've got the likes of Phil Foden, Jadon Sancho. You've got all sorts of players, Marcus Rashford. We've got a lot of attacking intent. We've got players that can change games coming off the bench. You forget that a lot of these players aren't going to be playing the game for the 90 minutes and will need to have an impact sub. So the fact that we've got these players to make the impact is fantastic.
Jack Grealish coming on, because for me, he won't be in my starting 11, but Jack Grealish can do the job.
Yeah, I mean, he is in my starting 11. I think Jack Grealish is, when fully fit as well. Let's not forget that. No, he's obviously coming back from injury, but he's great, Jack.
Yeah. So if you had to pick your front three, if you started against Spain tomorrow, who would be your front three, Joe?
Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, Phil Foden.
Interesting. I would go Foden, Kane, and Sancho for me.
Yeah. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. Sancho again, undeniable, brilliant talent, and he's again. We've got so many players. Once they get the ball, they can excite you. They can do individual things as well as team play. So
we haven't had this for years, have we? Like, I think this is a better squad than what we took to the World Cup in 2018.
Yeah, but I think arguably, I mean, I know obviously it's not club level, it's international, but you look at a lot of the squads like, Portugal, France, Germany obviously were weak in the last World Cup. They're not going to be this time. There's some great teams, and that was just to name three. Obviously, we'll go more into it when we do our next podcast, but I just think these teams, there are a lot of these teams have a lot of talent. We tend to, and I know we've said this, Will, but I just want to get your opinion on this. We tend to, because we're English, we tend to kind of get stuck in this box of football, don't we? I mean, look at Trippier's selection. You saw on my social media yesterday, everyone was like, I don't know why Trippier's been picked. The guy's just been picked at right back for the La Liga champions of team of the season.
Literally.
We get stuck in this box of he's not in the Premier League, so he's obviously no good. The La Liga is a terrific league. The German league is a terrific league. The Italian league is a terrific league. Even the outsiders. We were talking about Eve Antoni in another podcast who came from the Swedish league. Do you know what I mean? But other leagues exist outside of the Premier League, and I think a lot of the English fans and the media don't. They tend to just get stuck in this box of, it's only about English football.
Yeah, and then you downplay when you play certain teams. I think it's something that needs to change, and I think it's hopefully slowly changing now. We have more players playing abroad, like Jude Bellingham, Sancho, Trippier, players like that. Because I've said it for years that we needed more players to play in Europe and around the world. Like, I think it's really, really important for development and it would help the national team as well for play different styles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think what we are seeing as well, obviously our Premier League winners being managed by a manager such as Pep. Obviously Thomas Tuchel's coming to Chelsea, so we've got international managers coming into our league as well, which is helping. But that's the thing, is it's kind of that influx of the international way of playing and the way that things kind of happen does have a positive impact on the international team as a whole. And I think you only see that from the last World Cup that we had.
Yeah, 100%.
So
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, the upcoming tournament. But I don't know about you, Joe. I'm getting excited. Starting to feel excited now that the team news is out. You ready for the friendlies tonight against Austria?
Yeah, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing, mate. I mean, obviously we were talking about it just before the podcast, but actually Lingard's been given a nod for Southgate because there's a few players such as Maguire, Rashford, and a few others obviously coming back from Champions League, probably thinking Chilwell, the guys who play for Chelsea, Reece James, stuff like that, who won't be in the squad tonight. But what do you think about that? Lingard playing when he's obviously not been selected for the squad?
He's not going to have any pressure on him now, so I wouldn't be surprised. I know you said it before, but if he pops it with an assist or two, or maybe a goal or two as well, I would not be surprised because he has no pressure on him whatsoever. He'll be like, look what you're missing.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to have a quick word, actually. I know obviously we're doing a short podcast today and stuff with the team and that, but I just want to say how special the international football kind of scene is to me. And obviously you can add bits to it as well, Will. But, 2002 for me is when I really started to get into football. Obviously 2002 World Cup, obviously I know it's the Euros, but, watching, legends like Michael Owen, David Seaman, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, you've got players like Emil Heskey at the time. All those players, I remember watching them and just being in awe. And it was the first time that I really fell in love with football. Even before kind of my club, I supported Leicester up to that point, but I wasn't really watching the games, if that makes sense, Will.
Yeah.
So the international kind of stage of the World Cup and the Euros and stuff, it just really is special. And there'll be plenty of kids in our position, won't there? Will who are our age, this will be their first real time of watching football, an international tournament, and they'll fall in love with the game. And this is why, for me, the international football just has an extra special spice to it, because you really do. There's nothing quite like an international tournament, is there?
Oh no, it's just that the whole country and countries get behind it. It just makes it so special. And then you see everyone with their flags and everything. It's like rivals become like friends. You know what I mean? For this tournament makes it so special.
I mean, this is kind of what I was going to say as well. Is obviously, a lot of my mates, including the circles that we run in, a lot of them are Forest fans. But I think the one time that we all kind of come together, especially rather than having kind of banter, it's more kind of unified, is when England play. We're all kind of behind the team, and it is really nice to kind of have that camaraderie, so to speak. So I love England. Looking forward to the game tonight, seeing how Southgate sets up. But it really is kind of in full swing now with the warm-up games coming up, and then of course we kick off on the 13th. So for England, that is the tournament actually kicks off on the 11th.
On the 11th, yeah. So very excited for that. So next week we'll be having a preview, and hopefully we'll be getting a special guest as well as the one and only Peter Crouch. So make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like the video, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. The links are in the description below. And yeah, anything else to add, Joe?
No, just you know what? Let's say the famous words. It's coming home, Will. It's coming home.
Coming home.
I can feel it.
Right. Definitely. On that note, I'll see you later, mate.
See you later, mate. See you later.